This podcast is recorded on stolen and unceded Aboriginal land.
We acknowledge the First Nations and elders of this country, and we join their calls for justice. Okay, it's election time. Time to look at my preferences.
Oh, what's the time?
Tap in my thoughts
Election time.
and feelings and all my beliefs into ABC's Vote Compass.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. That's interesting. Well, I'm a Greens member and I like the Greens and I vote Greens. And I just answered all the questions and put in all my beliefs and it told me I'm a Nazi.
It told you. Oh, okay, yeah.
It says vote for Adolf Hitler. Now, I don't know. There's something wrong with the website.
It's telling you to vote for Hitler.
For Adolf Hitler, yeah.
Required legally to vote for Adolf Hitler.
Which makes no sense because I like the Greens, right? That's I always vote Greens.
You vote Greens, and yet, and you
yes, I always vote Greens.
Are a white supremacist.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. I just use the ABC Vote Covers tool to tell me who to vote for, and now I guess I have to vote for Hitler. That's the way it works.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Well, that's the way it works. That's what we fund the ABC for.
So you've done it, okay? ABC Vote Covers, if you haven't done it yet, you can put in there, you can put in all your beliefs. It tells you where you land on the political spectrum, and maybe it might just prompt you to consider what party you should vote for because it reflects your fucking beliefs and values as a human being, and that's kind of what the voting process is.
What? No, it's not.
You've gone through it, and you're actually right-wing. Is that right, April?
Yeah, I'm conservative. Yeah. It told me I was more conservative than the Greens.
On what
Which is
axis?
It's never happened before. I don't know. Maybe I'm just stupid. I like to think it's not that I'm stupid. It's that I'm actually I have far more nuanced policy views than the political scientists who wrote the Vote Compass. So they don't really understand me. I'm a deeply complex and flawed individual.
That's interesting because I am more progressive, more socially progressive than the Greens. I'm actually as left-wing as you can possibly get. I'm in the top left-hand corner.
It truly
of that
is
fucking grid.
I felt like I'd failed.
I win.
I felt like I got a B on my test. I was like, no, what did I do wrong? I studied so hard. Like, I know I believe in this. It was because it was a couple of questions. I think it was like foreign policy, a question about foreign aid and whether we should spend much more on foreign aid. And I was like, well, sometimes the way that foreign aid is deployed is like problematic and kind of just reflects more like colonialist and an imperialist, objectives rather than actually allowing sovereignty of the global south. And so I had good reasons. And the other one was like, should penalty rates be much higher? And I was like, well, yes, someone agreed, but like also, all wages, there shouldn't be a need for like them to be much higher than regular. Okay, so this is why. That's why I failed. Just to be clear, it's because I'm so progressive.
We should abolish work.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right. My little dot cheating. Is just sort of like drifting in space. It's like.
Wow. I mean, it tells me that I agree with 59% agree with the Australian Labor Party, which is like, interesting. And 31% with the Liberal National Coalition.
Okay, get off the podcast. Mike, kick him out.
98% with the Greens, so how about that? Some of the questions are pretty wild. It's like, how many immigrants should Australia admit? Less, more, the same, or somewhat more or more than the immigrant level? But it doesn't sort of say like how many people it is and what kind of makeup of the immigration.
It's true. There were the times like that and I was like, is this closed book? Like, do I get to check what, what you mean by this?
Can I check who the people are that are coming in?
Yeah, exactly.
Can
That's
I judge
right.
them based on their race and gender?
Yeah.
What about this one? Regardless of the party you intend to vote for in this election, in general, how likely are you to support the Australian Labor Party? 1 to 10.
But
I put a 5. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's right. What did I put for? I think I probably put like a 3 or 4.
Right.
Because it's like, would I vote for them? If there is a future where I'm voting for Labor, it's not one I want to see.
It's a great future.
Something has gone very wrong or really good. Maybe. Who knows?
Great piece from Cam Smith on Crikey that we can link through in the show notes about the fact that a lot of people, this apparently happens every election, you were telling me? Every election.
It does.
People who consider themselves to be very much aligned with Labor and Labor Vision vote on ABC Compass, put in their what they believe into ABC Vote Compass. It tells them they are closer to the Greens or the LP and their brains explode.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, computer says no. Computer says Greens. And I'm really scarred and worried. And their brains melt.
Yeah.
And it's literally I did ABC vote covers, and it tells me I'm agreed, but I'm an
But
AB voter.
but
How
that's
did this
not right.
result happen?
Yeah,
It's not right.
so funny. Yeah, I like that the URL for that article as well is just something like Vote Compass Mad Online. This is the URL, which I really liked that. Thanks, Crikey. And there was, I think, Will Kelly who works in Adam Bandt's office. His tweet is in that article where it points out that like the ALP on that grid, so it has the Vote Compass. If anyone hasn't seen it, everyone listening surely has seen it. But it has the axis of socially progressive to conservative, and then it has economic left to right, and it graphs the parties and you. And the ALP has moved significantly to the right economically and towards conservative in terms of social politics since the last election, which reflects a shift in their policies. But it is quite, stark to see them just jumping across, and they're just getting closer and closer to the Liberals, like on this little graph.
Van Vadim, my friend and yours, tweeted, note, the ABC vote compass is absolutely deceptive because it doesn't weight your answers on the likelihood of a party being able to deliver the policies you like.
That's how it works.
I.e., Greens can promise unicorns and twisties for everyone, but their capacity to deliver them is zero.
I want to know where Van got access to the Unicorns and Twisties initiative, which has not yet been announced. There's a fucking leak, and I want to know who it is.
If you want to find it, Google it, mate. But you know what this is my theory. I reckon there is a very substantial proportion of people out there who believe that their vote is a bet. They think of their vote as like they need to put one next to the person who's going to win, right? As opposed to an actual act of expressing your preferences about what this country should be based on the policy platforms of the various offerings. People like, I have to vote for the party that's going to win government. Otherwise, it's a wasted vote or whatever bullshit they want. But they seriously think it's not an act of like helping to choose what the future of Australia is like. It's like I need to have picked the right horse in the race.
How much of that do you think is about misunderstanding how preferences work versus just people liking to back a winner?
I don't know. Yeah, it's probably a crazy mixed up connection of both. A wild cocktail of both of those impetuses,
delicious.
But with Van, it's a totally different world. It's like the Greens aren't actually left wing, and I couldn't. And also, I think the great thing out of Van's tweet is that everybody imagined that Van definitely did ABC vote covers and told her to.
I know.
Her opinions aligned with the Greens, and she's like, "What the fuck?"
That's right, actually, because isn't her argument that actually the Greens in ideology-wise, like politically, are a neoliberal party. That's her argument. Yeah. So is it that, or is it that they can't implement their socialist policies? Van, write in. Let us know. So curious. Been waiting to hear from you.
Long-time listener. First-time caller.
Talk about the Greens. That bunch of idiots.
They want to destroy the social fabric of society.
Well, the Greens get way too good a run in the Australian media.
And I'm not suggesting the Greens are terrorists. I'm suggesting they hate our society.
Frankly, I've always found the Greens to be a real serious danger to Australia.
Serious danger to Australia.
All right, this is Serious Danger. Easter Sunday edition. Happy Easter, everyone.
You're not allowed to say that. Cut that, Mike.
Why not?
Don't you remember the spiritual advisor? Easter, that's right. She let us know we're not allowed to say Happy Easter anymore because the demons don't let us.
The demons don't let us. Okay, sorry, everyone.
It's okay.
He is risen indeed.
Mm-hmm.
This is not an official Greens Party podcast. I'm Tom Ballard. That is Emerald Moon.
Hi.
This week we're going to be joined by WA Senator and Greens Health spokesperson Jordon Steel-John, JSJ, to discuss the party's big policy announcement to get dental and mental health care into Medicare, actually free, actual health care for everybody, please.
Teeth.
Palmer, we're coming for your teeth. That should be the policy, to extract Clive's actual teeth and redistribute those teeth to people who don't have them because they can't afford to go to the dentist.
Policy, yeah.
How was the first week of #OzVotes 2022 for you, Emerald Moon?
You wrote this in the show notes, and I was like, "What do you mean the first?" Oh, it's the first week, and I just had a little
the first week,
a little world shift, realizing that it's been 1 week, because
it's been 1
week.
week. Have you had fun? Do you feel like you love democracy? What's going on?
Actually, I feel really good. I do. I'm personally insane and just
Sure.
living on a different, plane. But it's a
Mhm.
nice plane. It feels good right now. I am really pleased. Again, Serious Danger. This podcast is making a really big difference in the world. I think a lot of journalists listened to our podcast last week and they heard me complaining about not covering the Greens. And they went out and covered us this week. And I really appreciate that. So thank you. But it has been
Really
We've
good.
been in the news, Tom. We're in the news. It's so crazy.
Imagine being in the news. All right, we're going to quickly rip out like the big things that jumped out to us from this week in a sec. But I just want to ask, and this occurred to me during the week. Are you aware now the election campaign is finally kicked off? Like we're trying to figure out what the fuck these parties stand for, what their vision of the future is. Are you aware of the slogans of the respective parties?
No. Do they have them?
They do. Okay,
How do you
breaking news.
know?
They do.
How do you know?
Well, by being on Twitter like 8 hours a day.
God.
My understanding is that Labor's slogan for this election is a better future.
That is what? Oh, that sounds familiar.
They want a better future.
For who?
The Liberal Party, the coalition's slogan is, I think, stronger economy, stronger future, or sometimes just stronger future. Okay, so
I haven't heard
the
that at
choice-
all. Okay, because I have heard. I've seen Labor saying a better future, which which is very like our slogan last election was a future for all of us, which came from the 2017 Queensland state election campaign.
Right.
And then we adopted it in 2019 nationally. So I really like that. I mean, true to Labor, they're just like a better future. For whom? Well, doesn't matter.
I just like the idea of someone being in a voting booth, just a giant lever. Do I want a better future
Or
do
a
I want
stronger future? Yeah, the sweating
Which one's
guy, like between the buttons.
Pressing the button. But then what is our slogan?
We don't have
Is
one.
our slogan a future for all of us, or is it fight for a future for all of us?
No,
or
we
is
don't
it fight for the future?
I don't think we have one. And like, I should know if we have one. I think we still use a future for all of us because we have it on materials and stuff and like it's in certain places. But I certainly don't think it's like the 2022 federal election slogan. I think there was quite a conscious decision to not have a slogan.
Adam, I think he just used this in the Melbourne electorate in 2019, was for the many, not the few. And I'm like, yeah, like do that. Just steal that. That's fine.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Okay, let's talk about it. Incredible week. First week of the election campaign. How would you say it's gone well for Labor leader Anthony Albanese and the momentum that he's managed to gain right out of the gate?
Okay.
What'd you say this week?
It really is as though like not just that Albanese like tripped out of the gate, but it's more that like someone on the sidelines was like, trip, like just like psyched him out. Like and now they're like,
you faggot.
okay, no, he can't do it anymore. All right, okay. Oh, he's done. And he's done.
All right. Well, look, just one more time. Roll the audio.
I know how much the price of bread is. I know how much a litre of milk is. I know about those things that affect ordinary people. I'm happy to engage with you, but I'm not. It's up to people to ask whatever questions they want. Andrew.
What's the national unemployment rate?
National unemployment rate at the moment is, I think it's 5.4. Sorry. I'm not sure what it is. Yeah.
There you go. That's Anthony Albanese not being able to name the unemployment rate or the interest rate, the cash rate in a press conference. Owned
That's it.
by journalism's.
Election lost.
Now, we'll get to this, I'm sure, but we don't care. And
To be
the
clear.
stupidity of the gotcha question, we don't care. I will say it's very weird that he did not know that number. I would say it was weird
You
in
reckon?
that. Well, I just think it's like that is a very constant number. Even if you surely like, do politicians watch the news? Do they watch Scott Morrison's interviews and stuff? Because he's always banging on about that. If you see any press release, they're constantly talking about the unemployment rate and how the economy's bounced back after COVID. I just think it's weird that he had that kind of brain fart.
I reckon
and couldn't recall the number. I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
I just think it's weird.
Yeah. I guess probably you just have to have so many numbers in your head. Like maybe you can't have them all.
And it probably in that like being nervous, like in that moment, being
Yeah.
like, I know that this is important, that if I don't know this, this will be a thing.
Yeah.
And so my brain's shutting down and I can't do it.
Mm.
Very interesting from John Howard, who was asked about it. And he said, who cares that he didn't know the unemployment rate? because he was also got it in 2007 when he was asked what the interest rate was, and he didn't know it. And then, then when she told him the correct number, he made a very funny little noise.
Official reserve.
Yeah. Well, I've given you. Well, it's 6.25.
6.5, actually. Prime Minister, it's going to be an interesting 6 weeks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Really good. I like that. But then, did you see later that day, I think, Howard was then doing some panel with the West Australian, and then he was like changing his story. He's like, no, he should have known that number. It's actually important that he knew that number. So he clearly got the message out there on the campaign trail from Liberals being like, we're telling people that this really matters. Coconut. Fucking tell everybody this matters.
First of all, why are you still on TV? Why are you still talking to journalists? Please die. Second of all, this is a big deal. Get your fucking messaging right, Howard, if you're not going to shut your fucking mouth.
Also, please die. They probably want Howard to die in a kind of Bob Hawke vibe, right? Like,
yeah, that's such a good point.
They want the beloved Howard to die during the election campaign, and then everyone can be like, oh, I like John Howard. I'll vote for Scott Morrison.
Him.
So then that unleashed this, days and days of bullshit from the media, from all these commentators about how this shows, and from the Liberal Party themselves, of course, and Scott Morrison saying that this clearly shows that Anthony Albanese cannot be trusted with the economy because he could not recall a specific number at a certain time. What did you make of this fucking shit show, Emerald?
Oh, I don't care. Who cares? It's so stupid. I mean, it's true, and I think you were talking about that clip is resurfacing about the way that media covers politics and elections in particular, and it's Jay Rosen, I think, from like 2010, talking about horse race journalism.
Horse race journalism is sort of a reusable model for how to do campaign coverage, in which you focus on who's going to win rather than what the country needs to settle by electing a prime minister. It kind of imagines the campaign as a sporting event, right? And everything that happens in the campaign can potentially affect the outcome. And so you can look at it as, how is it going to affect the horse race? And every day you can ask, who's ahead? And what is their strategy? And I think this perspective appeals to political reporters because it kind of puts them on the inside, looking at the campaign the way the operatives do. By the way, I'm told that you actually have a program here on Sunday morning called The Insiders.
We do.
Is that true?
We do.
And the insiders are the journalists?
That is right.
That's remarkable.
And that it is all just about like who's in front. It's about the race itself rather than, the vision that is being offered by either political party.
Yeah. Really great piece from Tim Dunlop on Meanjin, which we can link through as well. I thought this was pretty good on the gaffes. What is worth is lingering on what this says about the way in which too many journalists are still living within a pre-digitization mindset where their ontology is still bound to the logic of paper. We often see this when journalists construct their arguments around outdated notions such as the mythology of a front page or a morning edition deadline, when in fact digitization has changed the very nature of these aspects in their profession. We live in a period where the entire planet is wrapped in an electronic infrastructure that, for good or ill, stores and makes accessible vast reservoirs of information, and most of us know that we do not need to carry around in our heads information that is a click away via the phone in our pockets. We further know that in such a world, it tells us precisely nothing about a leader's fitness for office that he couldn't recall a precise number in a given moment when everybody watching knows he could have Googled it as he stood there.
Mm-hmm.
A wonderful point also highlighted by our boy.
Talking of abject fact-checking exercises, you said in the speech that wages growth wasn't going particularly well. What's the current WPI?
Well, Google it, mate. I mean, I am sick. If you want to know why people are turning off politics, it's because what happens when you have an election that increasingly becomes this basic fact-checking exercise between a government that deserves to be turfed out and an opposition that's got no vision. This is what happens. Elections should be about a contest of ideas. Politics should be about reaching for the stars and offering a better society. And instead, And instead, there's these questions that are asked about, can you tell us this particular stat or can you tell us that particular stat? And those questions are designed to show that politicians are somehow out of touch and not representative of everyday people. Well, newsflash, most of the people in Canberra are on six-figure salaries just passing time until they go out and work for their coal and gas corporations and get a 6 or 7-figure lobbying job. Do you know what would be a better way of showing? Do you know what would be a better way of showing that politicians are in touch with the need of everyday people? It would be passing laws that lift the minimum wage. It would be making dental and mental into Medicare. It would be making sure that we wipe student debt and build affordable houses. And when you've got wages growing at about 2% and a bit and inflation growing at about 3.5%, that is part of the problem. And I would hope that at this election, we can lift the standard and turn it into a genuine contest of ideas.
Your profit tax?
I had the speech on my lunch break and just kind of as I was doing stuff at work. And it's true that when that happened, it got a reaction from me. It was just like, it's like a little buzz. It was like an endorphin rush because it was as though he'd just broken the fourth wall, or it's like an emperor's new clothes sort of thing where we're all playing our little game and we've all got our little, like I was talking about last week, that there are the set ways in which the media can extract a story from the politicians for the election coverage, and they're in their little club and they're asking their little questions and it's all nice. And then suddenly Adam just like looks straight at you and is like, this is a game, bro. Like, we're playing the game. And you're like, oh, fuck, he just said it. He said it. He actually just, oh my God, wait. He actually just said the thing.
And he, blows that wide open, stares it down and calls the media out on their bullshit, which the Labor Party, I think, has to do for all their, the Murdochracy and Murdoch puppet bullshit that Labor people like to talk about. No, they never seem to be prepared to actually do that, to actually call the media out on their bullshit.
Yeah.
I think Bernie Sanders is very good at doing it. I think Jeremy Corbyn was extremely good at doing it. And he welcomed the hatred of the Murdoch media empire. Didn't work out great there. But, it doesn't undermine the truth of his critique of the fact that these media organizations are not neutral players, and they are playing bullshit for profit. And you've got to reject that game, push back and say it's nonsense. That's not getting us anywhere closer. We should be reaching for the stars. What do you think of that, Emerald?
Reach for the stars.
Politics is about reaching for the stars.
I mean, it's interesting because actually one other person that I can think of in Australian politics who does sometimes break that fourth wall and like call journalists on their bullshit a little bit, to her credit, is Palaszczuk in Queensland. Who obviously I hate, and her politics are terrible. But she has this way that's developed, I think, particularly since the pandemic, that at press conferences, she'll just be kind of like really short and tetchy with journalists in a way that I reckon she's had discussions in her team where they know that that's kind of endearing. Because when they're asking stupid questions, she's just like, look, I don't know, okay? Like, it's not, I gave you the answer that I've got. I'll go and look at it. I don't know right now. Like, and I think that, that is actually... It's interesting. I think sometimes she takes it a bit too far because she just seems so disdainful of journalists who might actually be trying to get an answer. But there are so few examples of that in politics. And the thing about the gotcha questions, again, you're so right that, that quote about the fact that it doesn't reflect the era that we're currently living in, that Tim Dunlop article. It's like when you are in school or you leave school and you're like, why the fuck do closed book exams exist when that is never the reality in the real world? Like, they're like, okay, so as a fun game, this is the way that we for some reason have to do education, is to force you to like cram your head full of knowledge that you could easily access from a book or the internet. And then we take away the source of knowledge and put you somewhere where you can't access it and then say, okay, do you remember it? Do you remember it? And sometimes, when you're in school, if the teacher wants to be really fucking cruel and just fuck you over, they'll ask something that wasn't even on the study notes that they didn't even tell you to study for. And it's always like, why would you do this to me? Like, you just want to fucking make my life difficult, and you leave school and you go into the working world or in any social situation, anything like that. you'll always just be like, oh, what is that again? I'm just going to Google. Like my entire fucking working life, I'm just looking shit up because I can't remember it. And that's how I do my job. Like, and yet, yeah, it's like the media class is just still stuck in this fucking juvenile, like school level, mindset of covering issues that actually could affect people in the real fucking world. That disconnect is so frustrating. So I fucking loved it. I love it.
Albanese should have said when they asked that question that, I didn't realize this was going to be on the exam.
This wasn't going to be on the test. You didn't tell me. Yeah.
You didn't tell me it was going to be on the test.
Yeah.
Well, journalists certainly doubled down, whatever the fucking guy's name is who asked the question.
Harry? Is it Harry
strong.
Potter? Something like that?
Yeah, Harry Potter. He was standing by his question to Adam on the wage price index, just saying, if you're going to talk about wages, you should know the measure of what the wages are right now.
Cut you on the flip side, he said in his tweet.
He tweeted, I'm not looking at Twitter for 24 hours for obvious reasons. First of all, everyone says that I'm looking really young and hot, so thank you very much. And also, yes, my question was actually really good. So
bye.
See you later. I'm off to work at the Australian Financial Review. To which there was some incredible tweet responses. One person saying that maybe you should be a socialist because you just got publicly owned by the member for Melbourne, which is
we love
really
it.
good. And shout outs to your response, everyone. We got to share
you.
this with the people. What did you say?
I think because he says in the tweet, he's like, my wife is telling me that some of you think I look young. Thank you so much. Ha ha ha. I said, we got to do you have a wife? What is her blood type and basal metabolic rate?
Brilliant.
And he still hasn't responded. So, I'm fucking waiting. It's been 24 hours. He should be back on. Presumably he saw the question. Incredibly embarrassing gaffe for him. Presumably the AFR will be folding any minute.
Gaff.
The Greens are proposing a billionaires tax where people earning huge incomes would face an extra 6% tax. But many of those 131 people would already be some of the country's biggest donors to charities, some of the biggest philanthropic givers. You tax them more and A, they have less to immediately give to the causes that they support, which has a big flow-on effect to major charitable organisations. And B, wouldn't their direct charitable spending be a more efficient and direct use of their resources than having it siphoned through government and then reallocated?
I mean, talking about policy, let's talk about actual policy and a
Why?
mind-blowing, infuriating policy. And why? Good point. Good question. I'll take this one because it fucking matters. And once again, the LP prove themselves to be cunts. This made me so angry. As happy as Adam's little moment made me, and the policy that we'll get to with Jordon, like some good shit that the Greens are getting out there that is actually getting covered in the media as we hold the country to ransom, according to the Australian. That all was really great, but. Straight up.
Meanwhile,
Labor leader Anthony Albanese says increasing the rate of job seeker payments would be too damaging to the budget bottom line, defending a decision not to take the policy to the election. Welfare groups have expressed deep disappointment after the federal opposition confirmed it would not back an increase in the unemployment benefit at this time. The current rate is about $46 a day. Mr. Albanese, forced to explain his party's decision, said the country's finances couldn't afford a boost to the job seeker rate. The truth is, if we are fortunate enough to form a government, we will form it at a time when debt is heading towards $1 trillion, whereby you can't repair all of the damage or do everything that you want to do immediately. You'll be fiscally responsible. Cunts.
Absolutely
Across
fucking
the
disgusting.
board, cunts.
Yeah, like...
So if you remember in 2019, they had a policy to review basically the welfare system, and Shorten was implying, well, we'll have a review. We're not going to lower it.
We'll think about it.
So basically saying, we're going to think about it. We'll have a little review.
And I guess they thought about it.
And we might think it, and we might increase it. They didn't do the review. Now they're not doing the review. The review is too radical a policy.
No.
Can't have the review.
Yeah, they decided to do the review with the, Labor strategists internally, and they decided, okay, in our little rungs, we're just going to move poor people right down here. Oh, they've fallen off. They fell off the agenda. Sorry.
They're dead now. Look at this. Back in February of last year, Albanese played down the prospect of a Labor boost to the rate in the days after the government increase. So the government increased it by, a fucking pittance after the pandemic had passed, or it's still going, but you know what I mean. And he said, well, of course, we think that it really is tough to do it on $40 a day. We would like to see a greater increase, but we're not in a position to do that because they're in opposition.
No, because, we're not in government.
They want to be the government, but they're saying that if that happens, we shan't be lifting people out of poverty, even though we could totally do that,
Yeah.
because we really need more money to pay down debt and to give $184 billion in tax cuts to rich people. That's really what we're focused on, and that's what the workers of this nation want to do. That's what ABC Vote Compass told us to do, okay? So we...
Yeah, the end of
We
that
have no
quote
choice in
was,
the matter.
we're not in a position to do that, and if we were, we wouldn't. So it's funny. Yeah, like, I mean, I think that we've said this before when we spoke about the Greens livable income guarantee announcement, because obviously we will raise the rate of job seeker to above the poverty line to $88 a day. We'll do it for all income support payments, including job seeker and pensions. And we, I think, mentioned the fact that one of the benefits of that is for workers both in and out of work, because it lifts wages from the floor up, and it means that employers can't just force workers to accept shit pay and shit conditions purely because they fear being forced into crushing poverty on job seeker and, you know, fucking demoralizing mutual obligations. And so, yeah, just another example of Labor literally like screwing the fuck over Labor with a U, as in workers.
Penny Wong went on The Project. I don't know if you saw that.
We have to be able to fund the policies that we announce.
But you also are prepared to support stage 3 tax cuts, which, for example, and they are directed exclusively at the top end. They cost something in the order of $184 billion over 10 years. You could increase JobSeeker by, say, $160 a fortnight, and it would cost you, say, $5 billion a year. So what's that? Maybe $55 billion over 10 years? That gives you far more than the money you would need for something like that.
Well, those tax cuts are legislated, and we've made a commitment to honour that legislation, to honour those tax cuts.
But you also supported that legislation. So it's not as though
that's actually no. Hang on, Wally, because I was there in the Senate, and remember there were a number of different times where first the bill came through. We made some amendments which we weren't able to achieve. But look, what I want to say is this:
You've got money to. You're backing in stage 3 tax cuts. That's fine. That's apparently fiscally responsible, but you don't give a shit about people on JobSeeker. All these Labor MPs at pains to express how hard it is to live on $46 a day, by the way. Oh, I mean, really tough.
That's what nobody covered. Like,
it's more than I earn. It's less than I earn, that's for sure. We'd all spend over that.
Yeah,
I mean, it'd be honestly really hard.
That's what Albanese said, and like so few fucking places covered this.
JobSeeker is $45. $45 a day, $642.70 a fortnight, to be precise. And that $642.70 a fortnight is obviously a lot less than I earn. I know what it's like to live on a fixed income, but the truth is, if we are fortunate enough to form government, we will form government at a time where debt's heading towards $1 trillion.
Yeah, it's a lot less than I earn. Like, what the fuck? It sounds like some fuck boy being like, yeah, I'm rich. Yeah.
No biggie. But then Penny Wong seriously tries to pivot. Once asked the tax cut question, seriously tries to pivot that the cost of living crisis is cutting across all income levels, right? She's like, hey, we're all doing it tough at the moment.
That's not how it works, babe.
Because of inflation. Like, what the fuck?
That's simply, that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Cunts!
Girl boss Penny Wong, shut the fuck up.
Do ABC vote covers. I want to see where you land. Enjoy the Liberals. So look, that's all very bleak, but don't worry, the Greens are around. Do we have time for Alison Block?
Well, it depends which one you're talking about, doesn't it?
This is a story that brought us a lot of joy. A Liberal candidate has apologised over a bizarre false statement in which she appeared to claim credit for the work of a woman with a similar name who is a conservationist on Kangaroo Island.
Oh, awesome.
Alison, unblucky, I'd say. Alison Block is running for the seat of Mayo in the Adelaide Hills in the upcoming federal election and is described by the Liberal Party as a financial professional with experience in the defence, energy and agricultural sectors. Alison Block, that's with one L.
Oh.
The first Alison is the Liberal Alison is 2 L's.
Uh-huh.
Alison Block, on the other hand, is the manager of a wilderness trail on Kangaroo Island for South Australia's Environment Department.
Sounds great.
Yeah, that's good. That's funny. They got the same name.
What could go wrong? Sorry, I'll let you get to it.
But in a campaign letter from Miss Block to Mayo voters, a letter written in the first person with Miss Block's signature, she appears to conflate herself with the latter. As the manager of the Kangaroo Island Nature Trail, I am passionate about the environment.
Oh.
In a subsequent post on Facebook, Miss Block acknowledged the error and apologised for it. There was a mistake in the production of the letter you may have recently received from me. It incorrectly stated my occupation.
I hate it when that happens. I always, confuse myself with the other Emerald Moon. Emerald Noon.
I hate it when I forget both how to spell my own name and also who I am and what I do.
Yeah. Do you think someone got fired for this, Tom?
I don't know. So just to be clear, it's obviously someone else was tasked with putting together this letter. They just Googled Alison Block.
Like, who's our fucking candidate for mayo? Alison Block? Yeah, okay, thanks. I love it.
I love democracy.
I really
So
do.
good.
What a strange, it's very cool. Also, mayo. What a funny name for an electorate. Yummy.
Yeah, that's funny too. God, bring back Tonightly. Let me dive into this. This is good shit.
No, it got cancelled,
Come
Tom.
on.
That's why you're here.
No. Net zero comedians by 2050.
Finally.
Tonight, I say, we must move forward, not backward, upward, not forward, and always twirling, twirling, twirling towards freedom.
All right, our guest this week is Jordon Steele-John. He's been a Greens senator for WA since 2017. He's 4 years old. He's the Greens spokesperson on disability rights and services, youth, peace and disarmament, nuclear.
I'm 7. I'm
You're 7 years old.
And a
Veterans
half.
Affairs and most. And he's the spokesperson on health, including dental and mental health. Very important for our conversation. Hello, Jordon. Welcome to Serious Danger.
Oh, hello, Tom. Hello, Emerald. It's absolutely awesome to be here.
Yay. Your thoughts on the first week of the election campaign and follow-up question, can you name the current price of Bitcoin? This is very important.
No, I can't name the current price of Bitcoin.
Wow, and you expect
you're out of
people to
touch
vote
with
for
ordinary
you.
I know. It's terrible, isn't it? I should just this is actually where I resign because I can't name the current price of Bitcoin. No, thoughts on the first week. It has been strange. It has been unlike any election campaign first week I can remember because of the howling. I think it's because of the howling void where any kind of difference between the two major parties should be. And so it's just reduced to like, what did the angry pensioner say to the Prime Minister?
Yeah.
What employment figure did the opposition leader not remember? You know, like there's just an absence of substance, and I guess that's why, as you said last week on the program, Emerald, like the role we play in most elections, particularly in this one, is to actually have a go at putting a vision forward.
Yeah, crazy idea, but
crazy idea. Like, careful everyone. Let's just try this radical thing where we say what we want to do and then see if people want to support that on election day. Wow.
sounds communist.
It'll never work.
Very communist, yes.
Well, that's great to hear. And that's really what we wanted to get into, like a bit of good old-fashioned granular policy chat, because you are the health spokesperson for the party, and there was this big policy announcement from the Greens this week, actually free healthcare for everybody, particularly by getting dental and mental into Medicare. People might have heard us bang on about this on this podcast if you've been following Greens for a number of years. For a very long time, this fight has been out there and been pushed for. And I just thought, like, to start off with, can you give us an idea as to why dental has never been covered by a public healthcare system? Why has dental never been in Medicare when we know that teeth are part of the human body and require medical treatment? Why is that the status quo?
Just checked? Yeah.
Just checked. And many people have looked at my face and gone, is it human? But I've had that certified. It is true. I am a thing that exists. And yet Medicare doesn't see the teeth as part of the body. And it absolutely makes no sense. Like if you went to the doctor and said, I've got a broken leg, or I've got shingles, or I am experiencing like an asthma attack. And they went, well, that's sorry to hear that, but we don't cover legs, diseases of the skin and lungs. That would be like a dark comedy moment, right? And yet in the healthcare system today, that's how Medicare treats your teeth, and it's wrong. And I've got to also say, it's not only teeth; it also reacts that way in relation to mental health.
Yeah.
So mental health is rationed, and there are many cost barriers put in place to stop people seeking mental health support, and that is totally wrong. And I'm really, really proud and excited to be able to say that this time round we're putting forward, as a movement, the contention that all dental care services of any type for anybody who has a Medicare card should be free. So that's dental care, orthodontics, clinically relevant dental surgeries, dentures, literally from the first time you brushed your teeth as a kid to the first set of dentures you might get as an older person, you will be covered under this universal, and I'll say it again, beaming as I say it, universal dental care scheme. And I think the reaction to that policy since we launched it just demonstrates the urgent need for it. I had somebody stitch a response to the TikTok that we did launching the policy, and they shared with me that they're an autistic person in their 30s, right? And they're saving, as a single mum with 2 kids, they're saving to try to have a house, like to get to get a house for themselves and their kids. They had a wisdom tooth problem where they finally, after years, started registering like some severe pain to have that like in their jaw, which they don't process pain in the same way as other people might. So it actually took a very long time for it to begin to register as painful. They went into the into the dentist rather, and the dentist said, okay, so we've discovered 2 things. One is that your wisdom tooth is growing out of the side of your gum, and we don't know how you have stood the agony of that long enough. But also we've also discovered, having resolved that, and she had waited years, right, saving up for this. She knew there was something going on. So she saved up about enough money to cover what that would cost. But at the same time, they discovered that on the other side of her jaw, her back teeth had begun to disintegrate and also needed a root canal. Basically, couldn't afford a root canal. That was like tens of thousands of dollars. The cheapest, the option that wasn't a full treatment was $2,000, and that was all the money that they had saved from their part-time job for a house deposit to this point. So they literally had to choose between continuing to be able to save for a home or getting their teeth done, and that is wrong. That people have to make that choice is absolutely wrong.
Yeah, the 2 luxuries of having a roof over your head and like healthy fucking teeth, right? I mean, it's
absolutely.
Kids today, they want everything. They want all their teeth and they want somewhere to live.
Yeah, greedy.
Oh, no, come on, Jimmy, you can pick one.
Yeah, that's right. I had this incredible, last time I went door knocking in Griffith, actually, I had this conversation with it was a family, like it was the 2 parents and their son, and it was an African family, and they invited me inside. I was sitting on their couch having a chat, and the young man, the son, was translating for his parents because they didn't speak much English. And I was telling him about our, dental and mental into Medicare policy, and he translated it for his father, and his father was then speaking for a while, and he translated back to me. And what he said was, he's like, yeah, he just said kind of exactly the same thing that you said, which is that your teeth and your brain are part of your body, and it's crazy that they're not covered under a supposedly, universal, like a free public healthcare system. And I was like, see? Like, everyone fucking gets it, but apparently the major parties don't, or,
No.
So I don't want to labor this point, but like, is it big dental? Is it private health insurance companies? When Medicare was set up in the 80s, was that just seen as too far? Is there actually like some some
Yeah,
just insane political lobbying goes behind that actually makes sure that stuff isn't covered like publicly. But through the healthcare system?
From what I've been able to understand of it, basically what seems to have happened is, and this gets into, I'll put on my political nerd hat, to which 50% of the audience will be like, and log off. But the history of Medicare is actually of it kind of being brought in by the Whitlam government, being then scrapped by the Fraser government, and being brought back by the Hawke Labor government. And the version of Medicare that was brought back was actually one of the kind of more restricted models that could be put into place. And in that process of like, what can we leave out to keep the cost down? My understanding is teeth kind of just fell out as something that
and
surely we can
did.
just and fallout. Yeah, I didn't realise the pun I just made there. That's terrible. But yeah, that I think is what happened because of this false idea, and you know, I might just make the shift now from history nerd to a bit of Marxist analysis here, everybody.
That's what we come here for.
Well, this is the whole. This is basically a Marxist podcast. This is what this is. Yeah, like it's like the gateway drug to communism is
exactly
serious
danger. The serious danger to communist pipeline. They're all talking about it.
But the teeth play a very, and the state of your teeth have always been very socially significant. And poor teeth, as in what appears to be poor dental health, is historically associated with being somebody that doesn't have a lot of money, or you know is struggling in life, right? Which is associated with poor moral decision making in our society.
Yes.
So if you have bad teeth, it's because you've done bad things in life and therefore you don't deserve support. And that is actually something that still exists today, and it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. For instance, many people don't know, but we say we have a universal healthcare system. Practically, we don't. And we, you know, obviously teeth and mental service, health services are part of that. But also, the elephant in the room is actually folks in the prison system.
Yes,
like getting access to Medicare in the prison system.
They don't have it.
They don't.
Right?
They don't have it.
It's meant to be covered by state government, but obviously, state government doesn't deliver those services. But I only learned this recently that prisoners don't get Medicare.
Don't get Medicare, and so that's one of the other pieces that the Greens are putting forward this time is to fully cover people in the prison system under Medicare. Now that's been worked on by myself and also Lydia Thorpe through the Justice portfolio, because it kind of really matters to us both. I've also got disability rights and services as my kind of area of work, and a huge amount of the prison population is disabled people, and obviously disproportionately First Nations people. And dentistry in the prison system looks like one solution to all problems, which is to take your teeth out.
Extraction.
Extraction for any complaint. And therefore, when you leave the prison system, the association, which may not be true, but there is a strong association, particularly in Queensland and WA, between having missing teeth and being somebody that's had contact with the criminal justice system and therefore being an untrustworthy person. And that really plays a role in the higher levels of unemployment and underemployment that those populations then experience.
That is such a good point.
That's a great point. You know who had working class teeth? Anthony Albanese, and he got them fixed because he's a fucking millionaire. So maybe we should have a better policy on it now. It's just really like we've got to, and this is also I kind of have to be careful when we speak in these areas of like teeth and what they look like. We've got to be aware of the image-based stigma that comes with it for people too. And I'm really keen when we talk about these issues to go, hey, if your teeth are working for you, whatever they look like, bloody, fantastic. Go to do your thing. You know, like if they're comfortable for you, if they work for you, that is great. However, if you want them to be, fixed or corrected either for medical or for mental health reasons,
that is absolutely something that you should be supported to do. I had somebody say to me, a journalist said, "Oh, well, Jordon, we wouldn't want the public purse subsidising teeth whitening, would we? That'd be vanity." And I made the point that some people have to take a particular type of antibiotic to recover from certain infections or other types of long-term medication that deeply discolor your teeth, right?
Yeah.
So if you've had to do that for a medical reason, of course you should be able to have that fixed,
Yeah.
Smokers who were lied to by massive corporations for years about the health implications of smoking absolutely deserve to have the
instead
teeth
of
whitening
blaming
covered,
them as bad people.
Yeah.
Teeth for all is our
Teeth
our
for all,
thing.
yes.
Teeth for all.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It's a great policy. People can read more. I mean, again, in the policy document, it just points out each year, 40% of Australians delay or don't go to the dentist because of the cost. When you do go, 58% of the cost is being covered by you directly compared to other primary care where you're paying like 11% or 12% under Medicare for, I think, which is still a little bit fucked, but, hey, that's a sort of a whole other conversation. Also, another part of this policy announcement is getting mental health into Medicare too. Just really quickly, Jordon, what is the status quo with the mental health crisis in this country and the services that are provided? Where are those massive gaps in that system that we're experiencing?
Well, at the moment, the mental health system is broken, Tom. It's so broken. If it functions at all, it functions only for people that already have like financial supports in place. And often, even if you do have, if you're lucky enough to come from a wealthier background or have parents or folks to support you to get help, that system only really works if you fall into a bunch of mental health categories that are like reasonably well known by the system. If you have a complex if you are a white man, a kind of young to middle-aged white man in Australia seeking mental health supports, you've got the best chance possible, probably, of getting some form of help. And even that is very low, right? The minute you get into any kind of intersectional identities or community backgrounds, your ability to get seen and treated by the system goes through the floor. Like I've worked alongside people that say, for instance, are autistic. They also have like borderline personality disorder or one of those more like lesser known conditions. Good luck like getting anybody to see you and take you seriously in the system. It's an absolute disgrace. So what we're proposing to do is to begin to actually fix that system by addressing two of the primary barriers that people experience when getting help. One is cost, and the other is an artificially rationed system. So the cost barrier comes in place because basically the Medicare benefit items aren't high enough to cover the cost of providing the services, psychology, psychiatry, for instance. And so the bulk billing rates and the no gap services are really low. So we want to see an increase in that level of rebate for psychologists and psychiatrists if they bulk bill their patients. So basically, if you do that, you'll get a higher rate, and it will enable you to provide more services to people. We also want to see federal government investment in placements because there's quite a significant difference between the number of people that study to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist and the number of people that actually get to do that work. And the logjam is you can't get a placement once you've qualified. And often what's happening now, and it's really quite disturbing, is that people study these things, say, for a 4-year university degree. In the third year, the course changes dramatically, like really becomes a lot more difficult, and it causes a higher dropout rate. And it's actually something that's been engineered, really, in that way to force a bunch of people out of the degree at the last minute because there aren't enough places for them already when they graduate. So we want to see money invested by the federal government to fund those placements. And finally, let's get rid of the cap on the mental health support program so that you can actually get these supports from Medicare in an unlimited way. Like at the moment, if you've got
10 or
kidney
something?
disease, it's 10. They upped it during the course of the pandemic. There's now a question as to whether it will stay there or move back.
10
Basically,
sessions,
we
we
want
should
to
clarify, like 10 sessions seeing a psychologist or whatever.
I think it's because it's 20 at the moment, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I think
20 at
you
the
need to go
moment.
back to your GP and get another 10 if you.
And that's the
But you need to
problem.
go back to your GP like it's even more than every 10, right? Because I have
It's
a mental health
6
plan.
or 7, I think.
Yeah,
Every
I think 6 or 7. And this is I was actually curious because I don't know in the detail of the Greens policy, do you have to keep going through a GP?
No, we don't want to be that. We don't want that to be the case.
Yeah.
So because like I understand what is trying to be achieved by that. Like in an ideal world, your general practitioner would be a useful continual check-in point, and you'd be able to go, yeah, where we're at. Like, can we do some other wraparound services? The reality of what actually happens on the ground, though, is that people sometimes gatekeep access to continuation of that stuff. And I think that it's there's an assumption in our health system, which I found really deeply frustrating, which is, and you've seen it across the vaccine rollout, mental health, in so many different spaces, the idea of the family GP. Right, this construct of like every Australian family has doctor, insert their name.
Yeah.
And we just they know the
So
family,
normal.
don't they? Hello,
Yes.
Georgie. How are you
Remember
going?
your granddaddy?
Yes, I remember when I treated your father for lumbago.
Yeah.
And that's not the reality of the dynamic
No.
between the vast majority of Australians and their general practitioner. That is not to say anything negative towards GPs. GPs are like many GPs are absolutely wonderful, but the system should not be constructed with them as the primary healthcare gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Because
And-
that's just not good.
Yeah, you know what? Like, yes, there are some great GPs, but they're not mental health professionals.
No.
And I asked this because, like I said, I am lucky enough to have a fantastic therapist who I've been seeing for maybe a couple of years now. But I have to keep going back to my GP. And the last time that I went, I had an awful fucking experience where he, forced me to justify why I want to keep seeking mental health treatment, like seeing my therapist for about 15 minutes. And it was as
That's
though
awful.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people have that experience where they feel gatekept by a GP, and that can be really traumatic and difficult for someone who's already having a mental health issue. And the problem is that it was as though that therapy and mental health healthcare was treated like a luxury. Like it was like he was like, look, you've had a lot of this, do you really need to be getting more of this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just having so much fun. Like I'm just doing this for fun.
It's so fun, isn't
I
it?
just
That's the
love
main
going-
thing anybody says about seeking mental health support. It's just a wild ride.
That's
enjoyment.
right. Yeah. And I like my little treat. But yeah, it's like, no, this is fucking healthcare. It is not a luxury. And so if you feel that you need that care and that fucking support, then you should have it. And there should be no cost barrier. There should be respect for people who want to access that support. And it should be accessible. And that can quite genuinely save lives and transform lives.
I disagree. I love going to see my GP in the 15-minute consult that I've been given, filling out a form, and then them looking at seeing what the form says and says, yes, you get a psychologist there. I think that's a really good system.
I love that. And then they go, but you seem relatively happy.
It's all a facade, you fucking psycho.
That's definitely, if somebody
seem
seems
well-adjusted.
okay, they are okay. That's the no, but I think like quite seriously, what's at the center of this is the deep stigma that still is the reality in relation to mental health. I think that in political spaces there is a myth that it's definitely a myth that the major parties subscribe to, that we have made vast improvements in how we support and recognise mental health in Australia. Not true. We have spent 20 years drilling this narrative about, are you okay? And that has normalized some elements in some parts of society of saying, no, I'm not okay. What has not changed to this day is if you answer, I'm not okay, what next? Like, once you've asked, that creates an obligation to then have a pathway forward to get that person some help. And that pathway does not exist for far too many people. And it almost feels to me sometimes like both sides of politics are actually just engaged in wanting to absolve themselves of guilt. You know, oh well, at least we asked. You know, well, you know,
Over to you.
Oh, they're a bit quiet, and so I said, "Are you okay?" And they said no, and I said, "I'm so sorry to hear that. Have a good day," and I moved on, and that is not an acceptable response from either side of politics, because actually all it does is it fills people's feeds with posts every "Are you okay" day that actually get them to reflect on the fact that they are not feeling okay, and then they reach out and there aren't the services there to support them, and that can actually be a really dangerous moment for folks.
It's a massive investment. I really recommend, if people are interested, checking out the policy documents, and we'll put them in the show notes too. They're like 3 pages long, and they lay out the vision. You're talking about an investment of more than like $70 billion in dental and mental over the decade, and we can fund that by taxing millionaires and billionaires and not backing in tax cuts that will give away $184 billion to the wealthiest people in our society under the Stage 3 tax cuts supported by Labor and the Coalition.
Boo,
Thumbs up from me, I reckon.
Boo tax cuts, boo.
Boo them all. I guess just we're running out of time really quickly, Jordan, but one last moment. I suppose I'd be interested in your thoughts on Labor's positioning on health so far in the campaign. This Albanese just announced these sort of GP clinics and stuff to make it easier to go to the doctor. They're always talking about strengthening Medicare. They do love to talk about this idea, this fantasy of a medical system in this country in which everybody just gets the same care, and a prime minister and a billionaire and Gina Reinhardt, we all have Medicare. And so it is universal. We all get the same healthcare, when all of us and any person with a brain knows that that's total bullshit. The more money you have in this country, you have way more access to a variety of different healthcare options. So that's kind of bullshit, but they love banging on about that. Andrew Giles, the Labor MP, posted on Twitter like him holding up the Medicare card, and the slogan just says, "All you need is your Medicare card." And I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
What does that mean?
In every situation. Like, have you ever been on the verge of homelessness? Medicare.
All you need.
Have you ever wondered where your next meal is going to come from? Medicare. Has your dog just pooed on the floor and you can't reach it to clean it up? Medicare.
It's very strange. But I guess your reflections on, is there anything in Labor's health offering that we can give credit to and say is a good thing, it would make the health system better, and where do you think they fall short?
We ask the tough questions here.
I think, Ooh, how am I gonna get through that? Gotcha. Look, just trying to be as authentic as I can with this, and as fair as I can. It comes back to the frustration that I so often have with both sides of politics. Right? It feels like, for want of a better analogy, the Liberals are the party of pissing on you and telling you that it is your natural condition in life to be covered in urine. And the Labour Party are the party of pissing on you apologetically and promising that they will reduce the amount of urine you're covered in by 40% over the next 10 years. And that is not okay. Like, and
the Greens only piss on you if that's your kink, all right? And you're into it, and it's in a safe, consensual environment. Okay, that's the only difference.
Yeah, where have we got to? The point being, oh dear. The point being that really, in some ways, I find it more frustrating that a party would acknowledge that a problem exists and then not seek to solve that problem. Right? Yeah. One of the worst, like one of the most dangerous aspects of our health system, our health policy right now, or where healthcare is at in Australia right now, is that we are structurally underfunding hospitals across the country, right? The federal government is paying 45% of the cost of hospitals in Australia. The states are being forced to pick up the difference, and they are often not doing that effectively.
Yeah.
The result of that is a structurally underfunded healthcare system that's collapsing. Here in WA, like we had to keep the
Big
borders
issue.
closed for as long as we did. One of those reasons was that if somebody entered the state with a head cold, our entire system burst into flames. And in Tassie, it's terrible. In Queensland, I know that there's real pressures. Now, that is burning out nurses. Like in a chronic way, and it means that the entire conversation around the funding of health is obsessed over how to patch up the acute end of the system. So there's no space at all for a conversation about preventative health, which is a critical part. So that's why, if you look at the Greens policy position and what we put forward, we have fully supported a 50-50 funding distribution between the states and territories, and backfilling that so that we actually get back to where we kind of were in about 2014 before Abbott, rather, critically different distinction there, began to wreck the system, but at the same time also a massive investment in preventative healthcare. Now, next to that, you've got the ALP going, we won't commit to 50-50 funding of the system. And by the way, here's 50 GP clinics out of like 8,000, like out of the literally the thousands that are needed. So ultimately, what it comes back to is, are you not willing to both say this is a problem and address the problem? And if you're going to address the problem, you have to be able to tax the billionaires and the big corporations necessary to acquire the resources to do that. And you have to take on the Murdoch press, be willing to take on the Murdoch press that will have a big sad about the fact that you're doing that. And neither side of politics is meant to do it. So in some ways, I look at the two offerings on healthcare and you end up going, well, like at least the Conservative offering has a little bit more authenticity to it, because it's basically
you don't deserve healthcare.
They know themselves,
and we're not going to give it to you. Whereas Labor, you do deserve it, but we're not going to give it to you.
Well, it's basically the Conservative offering on health is the strongest shall survive. The weak shall fall and the bloodline shall be strengthened. Like that's the Conservative position.
Fucking good luck out there.
Good luck out there. I think the next health minister might just put their fingers to their lips and raise their, hand to the camera and just, Godspeed to the tributes, really. The prize is a hip replacement. We've got Sheila from Cobargo and Tracy from Perth who are going to be battling it out in the arena for a set of dentures,
To the death. All right, we got to wrap it up. But I think perhaps the other point to make is that, there is a great example of the Greens being in balance of power last time under the Gillard government, in which we made some serious wins on this, right? The fact that free dental into Medicare for kids, helping 3 million kids across the country access dental services for up to $1,000, I think, something like that. Seriously changing people's lives. We did it. We can go the whole hog and get these crucial services like dental and mental health care into Medicare, because it's all part of the body and it's what we deserve and we can totally afford to do it.
Yay.
Just before we go, this is so good, man. Serious Danger is excellent. And I think, I'm sure you've been told this, but it is actually so important for the Greens movement that we have a kind of cultural space and a space to kind of talk through what it means to be green, what we're experiencing, to profile people doing good work and running great campaigns.
Hey, it was so good to have you finally, Jordon. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Really happy to come back.
Thank you, Jordon. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for joining us on the show, man. And good luck for the campaign.
Thanks so much, Tom. See ya.
If you don't like who's in there, vote them out. That's what election day is all about. biggest gun we've got is called the ballot box. So if you don't like who's in there, vote them out.
Of course, you have to actually do one little thing if you want to make dreams come true and you want unicorns and twisties. One thing pretty base level in the election is probably to vote for all these things. And you can't do that if your enrollment's not up to date. Now, if any of you listening to this right now and your enrollment isn't fucking up to date, first of all, what's wrong with you? Second of all, just check and I'll forgive you if it's not. Just go aec.gov.au/check. Check that it's up to date, especially if you're in a winnable green seat and you haven't updated your enrollment. I'm not kidding. Make sure it's up to date. But more importantly, tell your less engaged friends that they need to update their enrollment for Monday, which is tomorrow. So literally just go on your fucking Instagram or your Facebook, your Twitter, whatever, post right now and tell people to update their enrollment, especially if you know any youths, if you know any young people. I hear they're not enrolling.
Perhaps we won't say.
No, we won't say kiddies. We won't say that. But
you can actually vote directly through the ABC Vote Compass website as well.
Yeah,
if you
registers
answer all the
your vote
questions on
straight
ABC
away.
Vote Compass, that just then sends it to the ABC. Do you see they're doing that thing where they're taking phone calls now, like for people who are isolating, either if they have COVID themselves or they're a close contact, and you can they're gonna take votes over the phone, which I think is a lovely thing.
Yeah, they did it in the
Have
state
they?
and council elections in 2020 for Queensland because that was also during lockdown.
Yeah, right.
But I think that it's like the problem is when people think, oh, voting over the phone, that sounds easy, I'll do that. But it is not. It'll probably take you longer than if you just go to the voting booth if you can and vote because you have to like call up, wait for ages, get a code, hang up, call again, go through the whole process.
Right.
But if you are isolating,
are
you
you
can
talking
do
to a
it.
person though?
Yeah.
Are you
I'm
talking to
pretty sure
someone
you're
on the
talking to a
phone and you're
person.
saying vote 1 for the Greens? Yeah.
Yeah, but the point is that it remains anonymous because you like tell them your name, you get a code, you hang up, and then you. Anyway, but yes, you can do that. Obviously, as well, tell your mum, tell everyone not to apply for a postal vote via the mail because the political parties will just send them the AEC form to apply for a postal vote, and then they'll have a little reply paid envelope in there. Guess where the envelope goes? Back to the fucking Liberal or Labor parties. They'll take their details, use it for campaigning, and then they'll finally send it on the AEC. Tell them to just apply online. It's much easier. You know that the parties do this, right, Tom?
I've seen Labor branded stuff talking about postal votes. I did not realize it was data farming. That is gross.
Yeah.
Real shame.
No, that's the thing. That's what they do. So those are your call to actions. Make sure that you're enrolled.
Only use the Greens data farming
Only the
techniques.
Greens one. Yeah,
please.
that's
Sign
right.
our petitions on the website. These.
Greens.org.au. No. Seriously, just make sure that you're enrolled before tomorrow. Monday is the deadline. Make sure your friends, your family are enrolled and make sure they're doing the right thing in terms of postal voting, phone voting, whatever it is. Just make sure they go and actually vote. And of course, if you've ticked off that item and you want to get extra credit in our Serious Danger Rewards program, go door knocking. It works. Did you see this? You saw this video, right? Or this
so good
call in that Max Chandler Mather posted, the Griffin candidate. And this was something that he was telling me about this. He just heard this on ABC radio. And this woman calls in. Maybe we'll play the audio, right?
Yeah. Have a listen to this.
Has she been door knocked much?
No, not previous to this election. 57 years. I think I can remember once, but we're usually in a safe, what's considered a safe seat. We've had Max Chandler Mather come twice.
So that's the Greens candidate in Griffiths?
Yes.
Griffiths,
very friendly, very approachable.
What did you
most
talk about?
impressive.
What did you?
And mainly just chatting that I was surprised to have somebody actually knock on the door and be actually interested.
Are you usually a Greens voter, Roz?
No, I never voted Greens.
Will that door knocking influence your vote?
I hope my husband's not listening, but it probably could, because I've just found him so approachable. And just in the recent couple of days, we had one of his representatives knock on the door, and they're most friendly and wanted to know if we had any problems, and they'd look into it.
Door knocking. It works.
Door knocking works.
Knocking works. So go and do it. That's it. Thank you. Knock. Good door knocking, friends.
Serious Danger is produced by Michael Griffin and made possible with the help of the Green Institute. Rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. Spread the word. Wherever you're listening, we love it. You can support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/SeriousDangerAU. Thank you so much to the people who chip in a little bit of money to help us make this show possible. And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. For all more info, just go to seriousdangerpod.com. You can email us too, hello@seriousdangerpod.com. Thank you, Emerald. See you out there, baby.
See you next time if I haven't lost my mind by then. Bye.
Bye.
Serious Danger Australia.